Disney's 5-minute Easter stories. Disney Pixar Monsters, Inc. Basket of Trouble. Inside Monsters, Inc., Sully was coming out of a door on scare floor F, finishing his shift. As he and Mike headed for the locker room, they saw Charlie Proctor and George Sanderson standing outside another door. "Hi guys," George said. "I just scared an entire slumber party full of little kids. They were dressed up like bunnies," which was odd, but now I'm thinking I'll be the 7th best scarer in no time. Charlie ran off to get started on his paperwork for Roz. As George turned to follow him, something made Sully and Mike stop in their tracks and gasp. They both pointed at George's tail. Hanging off of it was something terrible, something awful, something human. Spinning around at the sound of their gasp, George tried to see what had scared his friends. He spun until the object flew across the hall right onto Sully's hands. Sully's eyes grew wide as he looked at the object. It was shaped almost like the bottom half of an egg, without the top. He realized exactly what it was. A basket. A human's basket. Sully let out a very unmonstrous squeak and threw it at Mike. Back and forth the basket flew among them, to Sully, to George, to Mike, and then back to George. None of them wanted to touch it. "This is," screeched George. "The worst," yelled Sully. "Keep it away from me," shouted Mike. Finally, Mike shouted, "Guys, keep it together. This is a human object, remember? We can't just stand here in the hallway with it." George nodded. "You're right," he said. "If Charlie sees me with this, I'll get another 2319, and I can't have another run-in with the CDA. He reached behind him and patted his backside. My fur just grew back. Mike took a deep breath. "Okay, first things first, we need to get into the locker room and stay there until we figure out a real plan." "How are we going to get it there?" asked Sully. "I don't want to touch it again." Mike grabbed his gym bag and pulled out a pair of shoes, hammer, and a pair of sunglasses. No, he whispered to himself. Finally, he found his oven mitts. "Here you go, big guy." Sully put them on and carefully picked up the basket. The 3 monsters made their way down the hall. Bursting into the locker room, they ran right into Charlie. "Charlie," George said, "what are you doing here?" "Why wouldn't I be here?" Charlie asked, confused. Mike didn't hesitate because Charlie said, "We thought you were with Roz for the big award." "Big award?" Charlie repeated. Mike nodded. "I heard the CDA wanted to see you. Something about a special badge for your help with those 2319s. You should really get going." Full of excitement, Charlie raced out the door. The trio of monsters sighed in relief. They needed to get the basket back through its proper door. Fast. But just then the locker room door swung open and a group of monsters walked in. "Hey fellas," one of the monsters said, greeting them. "Just grabbed my odorant." Noticing the basket in Sully's hand, the monsters looked curious. "What's that? Did management send us new scaring gear? 'Cause that thing is frightening. Look at all that pink. Let me take a look." "No," Sully shouted, moving the basket away. Nah, don't bother. It's just a prototype. Didn't even work." Acting fast, George jumped onto a bench. All eyes turned to him. Hey, have you heard the one about the oven mitts?" The group of monsters waited for George to go on. "They were so hot they were cool," he finally finished. As the other monsters groaned, Sully slipped out. Mike hesitated. "George, tell him the one about where the cows go for some fun," he said. Before George could say anything, another monster jumped in. "The movies," he answered. "We've heard that one, but have you heard this one?" As the monster told his joke, Mike followed Sully to the scare floor and called back the doors George had gone through that day. Sully popped his head through each doorway, but he had no idea what he was looking for. Then Sully remembered that George had mentioned bunnies. He and Mike opened one door after another. They didn't find any long-eared, fluffy-tailed critters, so Sully did run into a very affectionate cow. Then Mike saw something green sticking out from under one of the doors. It was a piece of grass, the same grass that was in the basket. When they opened the door, they found a slumber party full of kids wearing bunny ears. Sully tiptoed into the room. All he had to do was put the basket down and get out of there before anyone noticed him. "Easter Bunny? Is that you?" Sully froze. One little girl was wide awake, staring at him with big tear-filled eyes. Then Sully noticed that she didn't have a basket next to her like the other girls. "Easter Bunny," the little girl said again. Not sure what else to do, Sully put the oven mitts on his horns, then began to hop like the bunny he saw on the television in the room. "Did you bring back my basket?" the girl asked. Sully held out the basket. The girl bounded to her feet and grabbed the handle. Sully had begun to walk back toward the door when, "Easter Bunny?" the girl said again, stopping him. "You're blue, and you don't really look like a bunny." "I'm in disguise," he whispered, turning for the door again. As Sully opened the door back to Monsters, Inc., he heard the little girl whisper, "Silly blue bunny." Sully smiled and hopped through the door. Once he was safely back on Scare Floor F, he and Mike both let out relieved breaths. That had been too close. "Those were some interesting moves back there," said Mike. "If scaring doesn't work out, maybe you can get a job being an Easter Bunny, whatever that is." Sully shrugged. "A scare's gotta do what a scare's gotta do," he replied as George called up to them. "Hey, George," Mike said. "You should see Sully's new trick." "Show him, Sully. Hop to it." The big blue monster smiled and began to hop down the hall. Behind him, George and Mike just laughed. The end.